What's up, guys? James Carter TV, continuing my 2016 NFL Draft recaps, and today we're talking about the New York Football Jets, and this is one of the weirder drafts that I've recapped thus far, and there's only 5 teams left, so that's really saying something. I think they really did a good job, but there was just one pick that was just so awful, and it was so early that I think the whole draft really suffered as a result. I mean, you're going to look at the GPA, the overall GPA that I give the New York Jets, you're going to say, why is it that low? And you're going to look at that second round pick, and you're going to say, oh, that's why, because he gave it that grade, and that brought down the whole GPA. God damn it, New York Jets. You took chemistry, you failed it, and now your GPA suffers because you failed chemistry. Shame on you. Let's get into this New York Jets draft. Let's start with their first round pick, the 20th pick overall, Darren Lee, inside linebacker out of Ohio State, and presumably and hopefully he'll play inside linebacker, 3-4 inside linebacker for the New York Football Jets. And I really like this pick. In terms of guys on the board, at this point in the draft, he would probably be my third player on the board. The other two being wide receivers and Josh Doctson and Laquan Treadwell. So they didn't need those guys. They needed a linebacker, definitely not a wide receiver, because that's the strength of the football team. So considering that, there's nothing else I would have done here. And when that is the case, I give you an A. Now, with that said, Darren Lee's not a perfect player. I'm not indicating that. But, I mean, in terms of his strengths, right? Crazy athletic. Around a 4.4, 740. That beat almost all of the wide receivers worth of crap at the combine. He showed great athleticism on film. A guy that knows how to burst sideline to sideline, burst through the offensive lines, looking for quarterback sacks and hits and bursting to running backs. Sometimes, though, too aggressive. Needs to be able to develop better linebacking instincts in terms of determining play action plays, in terms of not being so quick to jump at things, really seeing things before he attacks, because when he attacks, he's gone, and he just needs to slow down sometimes. And I think, oh, excuse me for that, I think that Todd Bowles will be able to harness that potential, and also his size needs a little bit to improve in that air category. Only 6'1", 6'2", 235 pounds. Could use another 5-10 pounds, but that's not a big deal to me. Just big thing, learn to look at things more. But in terms of coverage, I mean, he's going to be a great coverage linebacker, and the Jets need that type of guy. And in terms of a tackler, also can improve there. It likes to do too many arm tackles. You know, it'd be a little more sound there, but really a good pick. And there's no one else I would have picked here for the New York Jets except for maybe Myles Jack, but considering the injury concerns for Myles Jack, I think this is the pick to make, and they get an A for this pick. So great start for the New York Football Jets. And then we move on, though, to the second round, and this is the worst pick, and it is Christian Hackenberg out of Penn State. And I get it, Jets fans, you took Christian Hackenberg and you didn't like it. Okay, none of you liked it. But since then, you've gone to NFL.com and you've gone to ESPN.com and you've heard Mel Kiper and maybe Mike Mayock saying, well, he has a lot of potential. And you've gone and you found specific highlight plays and you've looked at his statistics and you've heard his own excuses and you've been rationalizing and telling yourself that, hey, this may actually be a good pick. He could actually be good. I think we actually got a good pick here. You're delusional, my friends. This is a horrible pick for the New York Jets. Christian Hackenberg, to put it quite simply, stinks. And he's been riding on the coattails of his high school career for the past 3 years. I can't even believe he's gone this far riding off of his high school coattails. This is a guy that has regressed every year of his life for the past 3 years. His freshman year threw 20 touchdowns, had a pretty good year, really up and down year, but a really good finale. He had 4 touchdowns in the Pine Stripe Bowl his freshman year. And then ever since then, regressed, completion percentage went from about 56 to 55. Senior year went from 55 to 53. He became a game manager, only threw 16 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Game managing stats there. In terms of his accuracy, kept getting worse and worse and worse. And that is something you cannot, you can change it. You can't improve it. But you can't deny that is his fault. You can say, okay, he was sacked a lot. He had a bad offensive line. He wasn't coached very well. Okay, but he can control his own accuracy. And when I see balls traveling 5 yards above a receiver's head, traveling 2 yards in front of his face, putting your receivers at risk. I saw so many receivers try to go up for these catches and get, boom, laid out because they were so wildly inaccurate. Ball placement, he can't even put it in the same vicinity as a lot of his wide receivers on a lot of plays. It's a big problem. And then you combine that with his horrid pocket awareness. This guy slides up in the pocket, slide into defensive tackles. He slid into his own offensive lineman a bunch of times. Horrible pocket awareness. This guy caused a lot of sacks on his own. I don't see, he needs a lot of fixing in his footwork, his mechanics, in terms of throwing mechanics. They're not consistent. You don't even tell me, tell me what his release is. You can't even tell me. He doesn't even know. It changes from play to play. Just Christian Hackenberg does like a 2-step drop. His mechanics are horrid. But he's 6'4", and he has a strong arm. But when that arm isn't accurate, who cares? It's a horrible pick for the New York Jets. I give it a D. I gave it a D+ at the draft night. I came back. I watched more film. I said, oh my God, he's even worse than I thought. I'm giving it a D. Yes, there is a chance that you can fix him. But man, that chance cannot be relied upon. And I am not betting on that. It is a D. We move on to the third round. Outside linebacker Jordan Jenkins out of Georgia. This is a guy that is never going to be a 10+ sack guy unless if he gets lucky. Maybe 1 year if he gets lucky. But in terms of being a run defender, an edge setter, this is the guy we're talking about. Tight ends are going to have a hard time blocking against this guy. He knows how to set the edge. He's a smart, intelligent, and tough football player on the edge of a 3-4 outside linebacker defense on the strong side, and that's where they're going to put him, and that is where he will find success. I really like this pick. He's of value here. I give it an A-. The only reason it's an A- is because the Packers, 5 picks later from this pick, they took Kyler Fackrell out of Utah State, I believe, who is a better player, who can actually rush the passer and could actually have 10+ sack potential. And overall, that just has much more upside in the third round than Jordan Jenkins. But it's still a really good pick. You got a really good, sound, smart football player here. I give it an A-. We move on to the fourth round. Cornerback Juston Burris out of North Carolina State. And my second biggest problem with the Jets right now, outside of their quarterback position, is their secondary. The linebacking core is okay now because you got Darren Lee in there, so that's good. But I think the secondary might be in trouble. We are relying on Darrell Revis to be the player he's been, and I think he will be for maybe 1 or 2 more years. But the fall is coming, and we need to be prepared for that, and I don't think the Jets are prepared at all. I think their secondary needs work, and this is a good pick to start working on this secondary, to get younger in the secondary. Juston Burris is a guy that I can't believe fell this far. He's really unheralded coming out of NC State, which isn't a bad college. This is a Division I college, but a guy that has good size. He's 6'2", over 205 pounds. Put up really good numbers at the combine in terms of a nice 40, some nice bench press reps. A guy that didn't allow many touchdowns or catches at all during his time at NC State, can get a little handsy, can get some pass interference calls, and I think that's going to be the same thing, and maybe relies on his length too much. But this is a good cornerback here, and in the fourth round, there's not many guys that I can trust to go out on the field and cover some good wide receivers, but this is one of them, and I I give the Jets an A for this pick. We move on to the 5th round. Offensive tackle Brandon Shell out of South Carolina. Run blocking tackle. But the problem is, that is it. He's not a good pass blocker at all at this juncture, and I don't think he's ever going to be. He really like his length. I like his size. He's 6'5", 324 pounds. Maybe a little fat for a tackle, honestly, but considering he's going to be a right tackle or nothing at all, that's fine. Again, really strong against the run, but man, that's it, man. His passing mechanics, passing technique, they need work, and he's not a great athlete, so I'm not going to believe that he's going to figure it out, because he can't even rely on his athleticism to battle, defensive ends at the end of the day. So I think you got a nice reserve. I think maybe he'll come in and play some games for you, but I never want Brandon Shell to be my starting right tackle for years to come. I give the Jets a B- for this pick. We move on to the 7th round. 235th pick overall. I believe it's Lachian. Is that how you pronounce it? Lachian Edwards out of Sam Houston State. This is a guy that has a booming leg, and that's what we're talking about when we talk about punters, hopefully. We're talking about guys with booming legs that we want to teach things in terms of awareness and ball placement. And his ball placement is pretty good right now coming out of Sam Houston State. Biggest thing for him, whenever he catches the ball, from snap to catch to kick, it's too slow. He needs to speed it up. He may have some punts blocked because he's pretty slow. He likes to take his time, and it works because, man, he'll boom these things, but not great there. And in terms of hang time, not great either. But he had a number, I believe it was about 66 or maybe even lower than that, maybe like a little lower than that. But a lot of percentage of his punts were inside of the 20-yard line, so I like hearing that. He's going to need to speed that up, and I think with good coaching, he can, and we could have a starting punter here. And in the 7th round, I love hearing that. I give it an A-. We move on. The last pick, 7th round, yet again, 241st pick overall. Charone Peake out of Clemson, and this is what the 7th round is all about. Taking athletes that for whatever reason didn't produce in college. He's an athlete, ran a 4.37 timed 40 at his combine, and then at his pro day, and at the combine I think it was a 4.43. But boom, this guy can go. Now, why didn't he produce in college? Well, there's a lot of receivers in front of him. Sammy Watkins, freaking DeAndre Hopkins, Martavis Bryant, and someone else that I'm forgetting right now, Mike Williams. So there's a lot of guys that were in front of him. He couldn't get on the field and produce for Clemson. But you can see his last season, some nice things. Couldn't get over 1,000 yards, but had, I believe, 700. Had like 5 drops, which isn't a great sample size, but that was 9%. That accounted for a 9% drop rate, which isn't bad. But, you have concerns, slight concerns there. But I like the potential. I love the potential. And in the 7th round, this is what it's all about. And Clemson knows how to teach their wide receivers, man. So I love this pick. I give it an A+. And with all of this said, what is the consensus on this New York Jets draft? So you put in all these grades in the GPA calculator. Out comes a 3.18 GPA out of 4, which is in between a B and a B+. I hate the Christian Hackenberg pick, but I think at the end of the day, you got a starter in Darren Lee, a possible and probable starter in Jordan Jenkins. Juston Burris may start at number 2 corner by the end of the year. Lachian Edwards could be a starter at punter, and Charone Peake is a sleeper. This is a B+ draft, so I give it the B+, and honestly, let's say in the 2nd round, 51st pick overall, instead of Christian Hackenberg, they would have taken, I would have liked Connor Cook more, even though I'm not a big Connor Cook fan either, because he's also has accuracy issues. Maybe you just should have hell. Honestly, maybe Paxton Lynch should have went in the 1st round for you, come back in the 2nd round and then take somebody better there if you really wanted to address the quarterback position. I'm still fine with the Darren Lee pick. I still give it an A, but that would have been a better route than taking Christian Hackenberg. I have no faith in him. He's not going to be good. I'm sorry. And you can quote me on this. You can vault me on this. You can come back to this video and say, you idiot, you clown, you fool, you moron, you didn't have this. And by the way, if he's great, this could be an A-plus draft for the New York Jets as they continue to build a really good football team in this Todd Bowles era. But I wouldn't bet on it because I think Christian Hackenberg at the end of the day will stink and they will regret not taking a bunch of players with this second round pick. And that is what unfortunately holds this Jets draft back. Until next time, James Carter TV, I'm out. Peace.